Hey everybody, Prospector Jess, I'm back. Hunting for gold, sourdoughminer.com. So tonight's topic is none other than yours truly. Who is Prospector Jess? Now, this might seem a little strange, but I'm going to talk about myself. And the reason is that a couple of you over the last few weeks have asked me about my background. And I thought, well, this is a good time to kind of venture back into that. If you go over to my YouTube channel, on the subscription page, there's a video that plays, on my home page. It gives this same sort of background in an abbreviated form with a little bit of music. Go figure. But anyway, so if I contradict myself, you'll be sure to tell me. But anyway, I'm not likely to. A lot of this I remember like yesterday. So here's the deal. I was asked, what is your background and what kind of, I wouldn't call it pedigree, but what kind of, achievements and accolades have you received? And the answer is varied, and a good chunk of it has nothing to do with gold. So now that we got that behind us, but I thought I'd go into it anyway because it does bear on the fact that I spend a fair amount of time working with individuals, instructing them about high-tech information in layman's terms. And so that comes into play with what we're doing here. It also comes into play with everything that I do. It's just a nature I have. So I grew up in Southern California, not very far from where I am right now, about literally about 10 miles that way. And so it's one of those things where, you sort of come back to where you started from. But in my earlier years, like when I was born in New York. So we moved out to California because my father had taken up a position here locally, founding the local theater for the local junior college. He was working at that time for the State University of New York up in Potsdam. And so moving from Potsdam, where it had been freezing, 30 to 50 below zero, seemed like a pretty good idea since he had spent a few years during the period of World War II waiting to go to the South Pacific right here in the same area, literally in that 10-mile direction up there. And so he got kind of enamored of the Southern California climate compared to that of New York State. So that's that adventure. Now, with that goes what you see in California, which is a many and varied, not just climate, but topology and geology. And so I grew enamored of rocks and minerals and fossils and gold. My mom got me into gold as a kid because I found out I have a history with gold. I had a great-grandfather who was a gold prospector in the 49 gold rush here in California. Go figure. So that kind of stuck with me. And then I really enjoyed the trips that we took to the gold area up along Route 49 in the Sierra Nevada. If you ever get a chance to go do that route, do it. There's a whole bunch of prospectors actually heading out in a protest run going up Route 49 to the state capitol to put down a protest about the moratorium that's become a ban by de facto. And where basically a bunch of guys are gathering to go tell them what they think, and in the process kind of make a lot of noise up Route 49, which is California's golden history. You may have heard California is the golden state. Well, that's where it started. The problem is we seem to have forgotten that, as so much of America has forgotten its own heritage and what it can do and can't do and make and all that kind of stuff. We seem to think that everything is free, and that's not true. It's hard work, and a lot of it up here. And that's something that we have to be very careful of when we think about what we're doing and where we're going with gold prospecting is, how do I make sure that people understand that, and how do I teach them? And so that's part of my mission. So given that, I was fascinated with the rocks and gold. I also took an interest in science. And so I made a venture down to UCSD, that's University of California, San Diego, and got a degree initially. Here's the deal. The initial degree was I got really fascinated with oceanography. So I went to UCSD because UCSD is the campus above Scripps Institute of Oceanography, one of the two preeminent oceanographic institutions in the world. And so I wanted to go there real bad. The problem is it's graduate school, and you have to get a degree from a really prestigious school like UCSD or Caltech or MIT or something like that before you get admitted there. So I decided I'd take a trip down there and see what I could do. And in the process became a student of geochemistry and mineralogy, and spent a number of years studying that to the point that I was 1/4 away from graduation. It's 3 months away from graduation with a degree in geochemistry, and knew almost precisely what my vision was. I was going to end up in the oil fields out someplace in the sticks, sniffing all kinds of chemicals and chemistry that had nothing to do with my favorite thing, which was rocks and minerals, and having to do with another favorite thing of mine, which was electronics and mechanics. And so I felt like I was being torn. I really wanted to be an engineer, but I didn't have the math. By the time I was finishing that geochemistry degree, I was tutoring people in calculus. So that kind of tell you the advances I had made. So one of the things that I found that was interesting was, gee, can I apply this degree and use it in a way that might be different? So I went and managed to catch pneumonia in my second to last quarter there. And so I was out for the count. I mean, literally laid me down something severe. And I had a very, very good ex-Navy corpsman. He was a Navy officer who basically was at the local student health center, who dressed me down in very colorful terms about how foolish I was being for wanting to just continue on through and try to get that degree if that isn't what I wanted to do. And two, with this pneumonia, I almost guarantee you that you're going to kill yourself, or you're going to have a lifelong injury if you don't take a break from school. So I took a quarter break off, and he sent me off to a friend of his in the engineering department, and we had a nice talk about my vision for engineering. And he started me in a group called the Engineering Science Department, which was new there. It only lasted for a few years. Basically, I got a degree in engineering science, Bachelor of Science in Engineering Science, with a specialization in mechanics and control systems. So I was headed for robotics and AI. See where we're going today? Okay, so a lot of what people are looking at today, I was looking at way back then, and I actually built some AI-based diagnostics for a company I worked for called Teradyne. And so that's kind of my background. I also managed a group of software engineers. That was what I got heavily into in a test industry. So probably 90% of what's in these cell phones today is tested on these testers by Teradyne. Big company. Very competitive, and it was a riot. And so I spent almost, 38 years with them, learning all the ins and outs of semiconductors and testing and all that good stuff. So come full circle, during that later time period, I started bringing my kids up to Route 49 and getting them interested in gold. And lo and behold, they were fascinated. We got into water skiing and all kinds of outdoor activities, rock climbing, you name it. And so it turned out to be a lot of fun, but one of the things that stuck was the gold prospecting. Hence the gold over here in the picture, because that was something that went all the way back to my childhood and drew me all the way forward and said, gee, I can connect all these dots, including system science, because I can understand how, cause and effect come to play in the things that you do when you're looking for gold, and how that can play a role in how effective you are at finding more gold. And so that's what I do, and that's what kind of my background is. If you want to know more about it, I can give you all the details. Even have a patent on basically detecting errors in a bit serial digital signal using jitter determination methods. And so there's a whole thing about error and so forth, and that comes into play when you're doing things like Bluetooth and USB and Thunderbolt and see what other things were kind of in the wraps, and we couldn't talk about them when we were working on them. So that's the kind of stuff I've done. That's who I am. Flip to a picture tonight. CTA. Hey, tonight's about finding more gold. So I thought I'd push the GDU, the Gold Diggers Underground, or Gold Prospectors Bonanza Club, as it's called. And you can look that up on that link, sourdoughminer.com/GDU, and see what you think. But the idea is to, kind of show you this systematic process by which I find more gold and allow you to understand what that's about. So that's tonight's promotion. That isn't what's coming up for the 4th of July. I just thought I'd give you a hint. There's something coming. I mentioned it yesterday. getting ready to launch, but we'll have something special for you for the 4th of July week. I just got to get it all kind of put together, and my son and I are clamoring to go get all that work done. So anyway, if you have any questions, fire them below. Give me a comment, and I'll see if I can answer them. I hope that answers your question. It was one of those things where, I've talked about this before, but it's probably been a year or two since I've mentioned the details. But like I said, the main thing that drove me away from the geochemistry wasn't the chemistry part, other than the chemical fumes, because a lot of geochemistry, the biggest money at that time, was in petrochemistry, petroleum field stuff, and almost all of that's organic, and it all has fumes galore. And I got into a cloud of hydrochloric acid once. That was kind of fun. Because of another student and their accident. So it just woke me up about, whoa, do I really want to do this for a living? Do I really want to be exposed to this much crap? But that is the stuff people have to do for you and I to be able to have things like plastic cups with water that's actually drinkable and not poisonous, and water for that matter, and gold, and oil, and all the stuff people clamor that they don't want. But the reality is they won't stop driving. So, I really feel that it's important, if people really feel that strongly about the climate and all these other issues, they should get out and walk. And I mean literally walk. No metal, anything. Take your clothes off too while you're at it, because they're made out of synthetics. So that's Prospector Jess's pointers for the day. Boy, that's a picture, isn't it? Sorry about that. Let my mouth run off. Let me make sure we got everybody on here tonight. Got that old throat thing still going. It's better. It's better. Okay, crystals and cleavage from last night. It wants me to promote something. I don't want to promote anything. I just want to see what's up here. So I'm going to have to assume it worked, because it doesn't want to show up, which is there we go. Now we got it. Okay, so make sure we got audio coming through. I'm going to have to assume it worked, because it doesn't want to show up. We're good. There we go. Now we got it. Okay, so that's it for tonight. I just thought I'd touch bases on it. Hey, Charles Hanson, good to see you. And Richard Manzer from Western Washington, glad you're joining us. And David Furlanis from Queensland, Australia. Long way. Had to walk a long way through the wires. And Wayne's here from back east. And Mike McBride is here. And Dan Gardner's here. Hey, he says. Okay, so welcome. And this is what we're about. So I just thought I'd give you a little brief bibliography of Prospector Jess. Check out more stories and more videos on sourdoughminer.com, huntingforgold.com. Make sure you sign up a subscription on YouTube on my channel, Prospector Jess, and check out, while you're at it, go over and check out this deal we have on the GDU. That's sourdoughminer.com/GDU. That's for you to check out and find out what you can find out about finding more gold. So, Prospector Jess over and out for tonight. Good prospecting and good night. And thanks for joining me.